Council. As is our custom, we'll begin with a word of prayer. Councilman Brewer.
Shall we pray? Father God, in the name of Jesus, we thank you for this day. We thank you for a day that we have not seen before, God. You allowed us to be here. And Lord, as we assemble to do the business that you have allowed us to be appointed to, oh God, we ask that you will bless us with wisdom, knowledge right now, oh God, to do the correct things, oh God, in your will, oh God. We ask that you will bless every family of the city of Gary and surrounding communities, oh God, bereaved families right now, oh God. We ask that you continue to keep and protect right now in your son Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Councilman at Large Brewer. We will now have our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins.
Here.
Councilman Brewer.
Here.
Councilwoman Brown. Councilwoman Brown.
Let's come back to her. I see her on.
Councilwoman Caldwell.
Here.
Councilman Godwin.
Present.
Councilman Lay.
Present.
Councilman Weatherspoon. Councilman Williams.
Here.
And Councilwoman Brown. President Brown. Mr. President, there are 6 present, 3 absent.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With 6 members present, we have a quorum to conduct the business of the Gary Common Council. I think Councilwoman Brown just unmuted herself. Do you want to just go ahead and say present so we can make sure you're recorded as present, Councilwoman Brown?
He's still muted, I believe.
Yeah, she quickly unmuted and it looks like she went back to mute, but what we'll do is that hopefully, I know yes, in short order, we will acknowledge her presence, but we do have a quorum to conduct the business of the Gary Common Council. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Council members, before you are the minutes of our previous meeting. Is there a motion to approve said minutes?
Mr. President, make a motion to approve the minutes from November 17th, 2020.
It's been moved by Councilman Brewer. It's been seconded by Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell. Any questions or discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins.
Yes.
Councilman Brewer.
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell.
Yes.
Councilman Lay.
Yes.
Councilman Williams.
Yes.
And President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 6-0.
With a vote of 6-0, minutes of our most previous meeting are approved. Assignment of council pending ordinances and resolutions on first reading.
CPO 2020-71, an ordinance providing for the transfer of appropriations for the Genesis Fund 101, Motor Vehicle Highway Fund, Local Roads and Streets Fund, Lit Public Safety Fund for the fiscal year 2020 expenses and forwarded to the Common Council for action and passage pursuant to Indiana Code 6-1.1-18-6. Sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary, Arlene Coleman, City Controller.
Finance.
CPO 2020-72, an ordinance appropriating funds for the special revenue budget for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2021, ending December 31st, 2021. Sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary.
Finance.
CPO 2020-73, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petitioner Eugene Eddy, 1501 through 07 and 1509 Pierce Street, Gary, Indiana, property at 1501 Route 07 and 1509 Pierce Street, Gary, Indiana.
Planning and Development.
CPO 2020-74, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petitioner is Cherry Brown, 2004 Whitcomb Street, Gary, Indiana, property at 2004 Whitcomb Street, Gary, Indiana.
Planning and Development.
CPO 2020-75, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petitioner Mihar Singh, 5400 West Ridge Road, Gary, Indiana, property at 5400 West Ridge Road, Gary, Indiana.
Planning and Development.
CPO 2020-76, an ordinance approving a transfer of funds between Fund 271, J Pit Operational Solid Waste, and Fund 233, Landfill Closure Plan, and 845 Air Quality Permit, sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary, Arlene Coleman, City Controller.
Finance.
CPO 2020-77, an ordinance of the City of Gary, Indiana, amending the fee schedule ordinance 8968 by increasing and establishing fees for City of Gary departments, sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary.
Ways and Means.
CPR 2020-18, a resolution of the City of Gary approving transfer of dormant fund balances to the general fund, sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary, Arlene Coleman, City Controller.
Finance.
Mr. President, ends assignment of pending ordinances and resolutions.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilwoman Brown. Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell is a member of the Finance Committee. Can you stand in Councilwoman Brown's stead?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. President, Finance Committee has before CPO 2020-71. For the record, I approve this for reporting out. Councilman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown.
Yes.
Okay. Would you like to take over?
No, I'm fine.
Okay. Finance has before CPO 2020-72. For the record, I approve this for reporting out. Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilman Godwin,
Yes.
Mr. President, CPO 2020-73. It's reported out.
That was 72.
Oh, I'm sorry, 72.
Okay.
Was 73 a part of finance or?
That's planning. The next
Planning?
one is 76.
Okay, let me do that one. Finance Committee has before you CPO 2020-76. For the record, I approve this for reporting out. Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilman Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, CPO 2020-76 is reported out. CPR 2020-18, the Finance Committee would like to report out. Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilman Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, CPR 2020-18 is reported out.
Thank you, Councilman Barnes Caldwell. Councilman Brewer.
Point of order, Mr.
Councilman Lay.
Chair. I wouldn't say, I thought you said 72 was in the Finance Committee, 71 and 72.
That's correct.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you, it's fine.
No problem. Councilman Brewer.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Planning and Development Committee would like to report out on first reading CPO 2020-73. Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon. A majority of the Planning and Development Committee has reported out CPO 2020-73. The Planning and Development Committee would like to report out CPO 2020-74. Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Mr. President, a majority of the Planning and Development Committee has reported out CPO 2020-74. Mr. President, the Planning and Development Committee would like to report out on first reading CPO 2020-75. Councilwoman Atkins.
Yes.
Mr. President, majority of the Plan Development Committee has reported out CPO 2020-75.
Thank you, Councilman Brewer. Councilwoman Atkins.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
So since Councilman Weatherspoon is not on, right?
That's correct.
Would I constitute as the majority of the committee?
You are tonight. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. President, the Ways and Means Committee would like to report out on first reading CPO 2020-77. What do I say? Just me?
It's approved.
For the record, I approve this ordinance for reporting out on first reading.
Thank you, Councilwoman Atkins. Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell.
She did 18 already. Oh, okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Lay.
under the present council rules, and I think whoever's drafting these orders, look at 2020-70, I believe it's 2020-72 and 2020-77. The only sponsor on these ordinances is the mayor. If he does not get someone else on there, only one mayor tried to know it all. Basically, department heads come in and give the information. I would suggest, this is more to the administration, I would suggest that the controller, chief of staff go there with him. Therefore, they can report it out. Under our current rules, he would have to do it if he's the only one there.
So Councilman, should I amend this?
I'll just add your name to these two, and
Okay.
then you can appear. Other than that, I agree with what the council president said on another ordinance. He would have to appear if his name is there solely. I've only seen one mayor attempt to do that in the 50 years I've watched it. Only one mayor. And I'll show you Richard Hatcher didn't do it, and King never showed, so, except to complain about me, so we're not concerned with that one.
Point very well taken, Councilman Lay. And I agree. Councilwoman Brown or Councilman Barnes Caldwell?
Yes.
Thank you. CPO 2020-71.
Yes.
Councilwoman Barnes, we're just doing the final reporting out.
Yes.
Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just talking. I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, the Finance Committee would like to report out CPO 2020-71, CPO 2020-72, CPO 2020-76, and CPR 2020-18.
Thank you, Councilman Barnes Caldwell. Councilman Brewer?
Mr. President, the Plan Development Committee would like to report out CPO 2020-73, 2020-74, and CPO 2020-75.
Thank you, Councilman Brewer. Councilwoman Atkins?
Mr. President, the Ways and Means Committee would like to report out CPO 2020-77.
Thank you, Councilwoman Atkins. That concludes our assignment of council pending ordinances and resolutions on first reading. This time we will have our special and select. I do know that Mr. Emmett Mosley has requested time to speak, and I will allot him, Madam Clerk, please keep time, 3 minutes to speak. Mr. Mosley? Mr. Mosley, you're muted. Okay. Okay, Mr. Mosley, you have 3 minutes.
Is this public time?
I'm allowing you during special and select to speak.
Okay, I apologize. I was thinking it was going to be at the end. I apologize. And I'm doing a couple of things at the same time.
You're now muted again.
Okay, all righty. All right, I apologize.
Okay, no problem. Please
But
proceed.
I wanted to speak because of the issues around the independent review board and what is just recently have come out about the prosecutor not prosecuting or having no cause for penalty for the police officer that in the last killing of someone in the city. And I'm just saying it is so important that we move forward on accountability for the police, accountability for the city, for us to have so many outstanding deaths of citizens involved in shootings with the police, and for there not to be outcomes, public outcomes on these. And I've been inquiring, is it just tradition that as soon as a police officer has an incident with a citizen that it's turned over to the county? Is that an ordinance, or is that just tradition? And the bottom line is that it is not ordinance, it is not law to pass it on to the county. There has not been a good response. Hey, I know Bernie Carter a long time. I guess we've known each other since playing basketball in high school. But the bottom line, there has not been follow-up. There's not been a public accountability from the prosecutor, from the city on those kind of incidents. So I implore the city council to get involved with this process in terms of even the commission that the mayor has supposedly announced, that there will be a commission, and that we're looking at voicing concerns of what's happening all over the country, and not concentrating on what is happening right here in Gary, Indiana. How a child can be killed, and then there's no comment. There's no accountability, there's no response. Public officials, and some of you have responded when parents and community have come before you, but it should be some kind of accountability that is better than what it is.
Thank you so much.
I just encourage us to be better. We got to be better than what the rest of the country is, and how we deal with our people.
Thank you so much for speaking out. And if anybody from the administration would like to, maybe in writing, offer some response to your concern, I know our corporation counsel is on here in terms of procedure with these types of cases. They certainly could do that. I just wanted to lastly say that I did not mention it at the last meeting, and it was certainly to be charged to my head and not my heart. I wanted to publicly thank our corporation counsel for the work he has really been doing over the last 2 years in support of a young man who took really the whole city and the nation by storm, Mr. Ben Watkins, who was a master chef, celebrity chef. We know that his parents were had a very tragic death a couple years ago, and First District resident, was kind of the face of a restaurant enterprise right on Shelby Street. Big Ben's Bodacious Barbecue. And so our Corporation Counsel, Attorney McCain, really took this young man under his wings, helped to raise a substantial amount of money to support him. And even this year, he developed a rare cancer. And unfortunately, he succumbed to that cancer a couple weeks ago. And so I just wanted to acknowledge Attorney McCain's work. He's not only an attorney, but he's a community-centered person, and we certainly appreciate that. And I wanted to acknowledge the life of Mr. Watkins. And if Attorney McCain wanted to offer any other thoughts, I wanted to give him the chance to do that too. And I'm putting him on the spot because I did not plan this or mention this to him, but it was in my notes to make sure that I make that acknowledgement. Attorney McCain.
Thank you very much, Councilman Godwin. On behalf of the family, we thank all of you, members of the council, as well as the city of Gary, for the outpouring of love and support that 14-year-old Ben Watkins received in his short life. I have never met an individual like Ben Watkins. He was the most positive, humble, remarkable young man that I've ever had the pleasure of knowing. He suffered more in his 14 years than people should suffer in a lifetime. We are going to have a memorial service for Ben on this Saturday, December the 5th, at St. Mary of the Lake in Miller. Unfortunately, due to the COVID-19 restrictions, we won't be able to open it up to the entire public based on our limited capacity. But the service will be streamed live, and there'll be plenty of notification of that on social media, as well as Gary.gov, and individuals can visit my private website, McCain.law, LAW, to get that link for the service. We expect it to be attended virtually by people all over the world who Ben's life touched. And we thank you all for your prayers, and especially for his grandmother and uncle who've been taking care of him since September 2017. We know that this burden lays heaviest on their hearts. So we just thank you for your support, and thank you for your prayers.
Thank you so much, Attorney McCain.
Mr.
This
President,
time, other members, Councilman Lay.
I can answer that previous question that Mr. Mosley asked. The prosecutor has exclusive and sole jurisdiction over criminal matters that occur within Lake County. Of course, if it occurred within the city of Gary, I guess the Gary police would do the investigation, and then that would be turned over. But until the prosecutor makes a decision, that's sort of confidential. I do not see a role. It would be highly political for, let's say, the council to become involved on whether or not the prosecutor would indict or prosecute. That may be more of a role for community activists than for the council itself. I guess if an individual councilman wanted to take that up. But again, the prosecutor will make that decision. The only time even the feds could come in, it would have to be a civil rights violation of some sort. Other than that, that's the way it's set up in this state. The county prosecutors have exclusive jurisdiction, and whatever they're doing is pretty much confidential until it comes out, whether they're going to use the grand jury or whether they're going to indict by affidavit. So I'm not sure what we can really do. I would think it would be best for us to do nothing. And the reason that it may be more politicized, that if he do it, then we cause it. If he don't do it, somehow we cause it, we being the council. So that answer would have to be given by the office of the prosecutor. I believe that's 755-3720. And again, I don't know if he will answer the question or even if the deputy will answer the question. That would be a place to start. I was just answering that question.
Yep. Thank you, Councilman Lay. Any other council persons for special and select?
Mr. President.
Councilman Brewer and then Councilwoman Atkins.
Just to piggyback on what Councilman Lay had just said, and just through the course that I've been here, I have seen a number of accidents and different incidents in the police department, and it's just been customary. Gary Police Department does not investigate their own. They always use an outside agency, where it's one of the surrounding communities or the sheriff department. And on that incident there, it was not investigated by Gary Police per se. It was investigated by the Lake County Sheriff Department. So I just want to leave that information also. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Brewer.
May I respond? May I respond?
You know, I really don't want to get into back and forth during special and select, but certainly you can contact the council office and you all can discuss it further. Councilwoman Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I did want to just echo the sentiments that you, President Godwin, as well as Attorney McCain gave as it relates to Little Ben. And I definitely wanted to send my condolences to his uncle, Anthony Edwards, and then his grandmother, who I think name is Donna. So definitely wanted to extend that. I do have 3 announcements. I wanted to give a reminder that the Gary Common Council, under the boards and commissions, is currently accepting submissions for the Gary Youth Council. Just as a reminder, the establishment of the Gary Youth Council, which was approved by our body in October of this year, has an objective to provide a conduit to promote civic interest among our youth, provide an opportunity to engage with the leaders of our community, and also encourage development of leadership and character skills. We are welcoming youth who are residents of the city of Gary who meet the following requirements to apply. You have to be a current sophomore or junior in high school, have at least a 2.0 GPA, have parental consent, of course, agree to a 2-year program commitment. If you are interested, we strongly encourage you to submit a letter of interest as well as your resume to the Gary Common Council Administrative Assistant Sherry Smith. Her email address is smith@gary.gov. The deadline to submit is coming up. It is this upcoming Monday, December the 7th. So if you have any questions related to the Gary Youth Council, please either reach out to Ms. Sherry Smith. Again, that email is smith@gary.gov, or you can call the Gary Common Council office at 219-881-1315. I wanted to extend a 4th District salute to 2 different individuals or groups, if you will. First, the Gary Steelers Pop Warner football team. They are taking the football league by storm. I would like to extend congratulations to our 8U and the Junior Pee Wee Gary Steelers team, who both brought home home state championships last month. The 8 and under team is coached by Charlie Butler, who is a Gary native and a class of 2014 graduate from Westside High School. The Junior Pee Wee team is coached by Tony Woods, who is also the league president of the Gary Steelers Pop Warner organization. The Junior Pee Wee group was very successful, and they are going on, they went on and they became the Mid-America Regional Champions a couple of weeks ago. And this upcoming week, they are headed to Orlando, Florida to play in the national championship. The games will be played on Sunday, December the 6th, as well as Wednesday, December the 9th. We wish them safe travels and protection. We want you boys to come home healthy with that national championship. Just for the residents, public, and council members, they are still currently in the midst of fundraising efforts, so they will love the support from the community. No love offering is too small for them, and the offerings and donations are tax deductible, so that is key. Donations are being accepted via PayPal. You can send any token of support to the following email address via PayPal. It is Gary Stillers with an S, pw@gmail.com. Again, the email address via PayPal is Gary Stillers, pw@gmail.com. And those are tax deductible. Lastly, but definitely not least, I want to give a 4th District East Side Gary salute to my dear friend and Gary native, known as Freddie Gibbs, on his recent Grammy nomination. The Grammy nominations were announced last Tuesday, and our hometown artist was nominated for Best Rap Album of the Year for his project Alfredo, which dropped earlier this year in May. Gibbs is a West Side graduate, class of 2000. Fred has always been a supporter of home. Historically, he does his support related to youth activities. He's actually helping, donating to this team, Pop Warner team that's going to Florida as well. So to Freddie Gibbs, Frederick Tipton, for those of us who have known him since we've been 5 or 6 years old, I'm proud of you. We are proud of you. Your city is proud of you, or they should be proud of you. And we look forward to you coming home and celebrating that Grammy win in a couple of months. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman Atkins. Other members for special and select?
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell.
boards and commissions, I have 2 announcements for boards and commissions. Boards and commissions would like to make a motion to accept Deloria Hudson as our Board of Civic Centers Managers appointee.
Okay. That's a motion. Is there a second?
That's a motion.
That's right.
I'll
This-
second.
Was seconded by, I think, Councilwoman Atkins and Brown. Any questions or discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown. Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 7-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With a vote of 7-0, Ms. Dolores Hudson is approved as a member of the Board of Civic Center Managers. Other
Mr.
members?
President,
Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell.
boards and commissions has an opening for Board of Civic Centers Managers. Our appointee that we have now has resigned, so that position is open. And all interested candidates should send your letter of interest along with your resume to the Gary Common Council. This will start today, December the 1st, and it goes on till December the 15th. So we have the other position that's open right now. Also, I have one last announcement. District has a Zoom meeting with the mayor. This is the mayor's meeting. However, I am reaching out, letting the residents know that this meeting will be December the 17th at 6 p.m. If you are interested in attending this meeting, you can contact the mayor's office or you can contact the council office. You can call in or you can tune in via Zoom. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell. Other members for special and select?
Mr. President,
Councilman Williams.
thank you. I'd like to announce to 6th District residents, Thursday, December 17th, 2020 at 6 p.m. We have a Zoom meeting for the residents. We will have Chief Brian Evans there, Rachel Morgan Caesar, Carol Pirtle, Cedric Kirkendale from Demolition, and Brandon Hickle, which is your code enforcement officer. The meeting starts at 6 p.m. You can contact Sherry Smith at the council office and she'll give you the codes and required meeting ID. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Williams. Councilman Brown, I know we have some special donations that were received. Did you want to receive those by motion?
I don't have those.
Okay. See, I got a note here. There's a donation letter from the Majestic Star Casino. I'm not sure. There must have, I'm not sure, maybe Ms. Williams.
Mr. President,
Councilman Brewer?
We can always defer them to next meeting and
Yep.
add. agenda.
Does that require a motion, Mr. Parliamentarian?
No. just-
Okay, so we'll just wait until everyone has what they need
Okay.
for that. No problem. Other members for special and select?
I have a couple of things.
Councilman Lay?
I understood last week or the previous meeting that Dr. McNulty was ill, but I was under the impression, and maybe I misunderstood something, is that she would be coming to the council. I wasn't sure if it was on a monthly basis or weekly basis. There's a couple of questions I didn't ask because I was texted she was ill. So again, they were going to be very polite questions, but it did require her to know detail. Also, starting actually January, I will do what is called the lay report on WLPH. I will be paying for that report, but it will be the first and the third Wednesday of each month. I will look at government much wider than the council. I will look at the executive branch and probably various governmental units inside the city of Gary. I will be most likely on the radio tomorrow and the third Wednesday of this month, and it'll be around 2 in the afternoon, 2, 3 in the afternoon. And that's something people may find of interest. It's simply to pass on what government is doing, and there's no other real benefit other than the fact I was asked to do it, or I would discuss doing it with the station, and I told them I'd be more than happy to do that. Another suggestion, I'm sure this Commission on Youth have done it. One of the best ways you would is for schools that have sophomores and juniors. I know the West Side has it, or the Gary Community School Corporation. Also, 21st Century, Bill Bowman, and I can't think of the other one right now. And as I understood, you may not be restricted to the city. So you almost have to ask them under the circumstances of this e-learning. The young people may not actually watch this channel. I'm sure you probably have done that already, but if you haven't, I would suggest you notify the school and they put it on their e-learning that we have such a program. One reason I raised that, when I was going to do the 12 young men from those 4 schools, that was first dealing with the school, then the parents, and then the students. Very close together, but I was dealing with all 3. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Lay. Other members for special and select?
But
All right.
I did have one other thing. It's on, and I don't necessarily have to do it tonight, but I certainly would appreciate doing it before the end of the year. And I see the chief is on. I had sent the council information on 3978 Martin Luther King Drive. I got an affidavit. I sent it in the same way I was going to send it to a court, as well as a breakdown of the 21 times that the police have been to that address. In no way was Miss Bobo involved. 4 of the times we had to do with tenants calling out either a domestic problem or I guess threats. A couple of times the alarm went off. But the other 15 times they sort of seemed to be anonymous. I'm not sure how the police got there, and I certainly get along very well with the chief, but I would object if he came to my house 15 times. I mean, I need to know, why is he there? If any more times, they should pay the rent. So what I wanted to do was to reintroduce for reconsideration no later than December the 15th. I've had extensive conversations with her. The council, I believe, before at least 3 people insisted she have a year. She had previously agreed to that. So I guess I and maybe 3 other councilmen got in the way. And I'm going to encourage those that voted against 1 year. The 1 year, I assume somebody's going to set up a due process. So you just don't wander into a bunch of hearsay. That maybe she can get it through. She will, as she has previously done, I guess was overlooked tonight. She agrees to the year. She has the sign, she has painted over the 24 hours. That has been done. She has owned the property since January the 15th. And the police, the Gary police, have never contacted her, as I understand it per se. They may have had to contact her about the alarm that went off. But the date that people have been talking about, April of 2020, there's no police record of anything going on with the Gary police. And certainly sole jurisdiction belonged to the Gary Police Department. So when the chief sent the statement that I've now forwarded to members of the council, nothing was done on April. So I would appreciate it. You can do this unless there's an objection. Just add it to the December 15th for the reconsideration. That don't mean they're going to vote for it. But as I understand that there's at least one councilman that voted contrary to what we were trying to do, may reconsider based upon the letter itself. So if you could do that, I certainly would appreciate that. And she will go on. She would have to be notified. But we'll offer no additional information other than that she previously has said she'll take the year. That makes people sort of happy there. And she has handled the sign. I don't know nothing else she really can do. And in the chief's letter, he said there's never been any criminal activity. It's not a house of common nuisance. And there was no reason to contact the owner of the house because it was domestic problems within the house. So I guess when the police went there, they settled whatever that issue was, but nobody has been arrested since between the period of January 2015 and let's say December 2020. So she will be on. We had 3 abstentions before, 1 no, and I suspect based upon a conversation with one of them, they may be willing to change their vote.
Well, thank you, Councilman Lay, and I will say that I agree with you. While I'd still strongly object to the notion of our trying to be the police as it relates to due process for business owners and our being judge and jury, I suppose, about whether or not they qualify to do what they are legally allowed to do, and that there are other venues to do that kind of regulatory work. That said, if I wouldn't want to be an obstruction to her ability to do business in the city. And so if there is a motion to reconsider, all things being equal, I will vote with that amendment to it. So I look forward to doing that on to at least adding it to the agenda, and then we will reconsider it on the 15th. Thank you.
Mr. President?
Councilwoman Barnes-Caldwell?
While we have Attorney McCain on, I see he's still on. Before he leaves, I need to ask him something.
All right, Attorney McCain.
Okay, yes. The last time we had a discussion about the budget, I kept asking the question about the residency ordinance, and everyone directed the question to you. Can you answer that question? What are we going to do about the residency ordinance that we have at least 27 or 28 people on the budget that don't live in the city of Gary that have just come into working for the city this year? And last year they weren't grandfathered in?
My understanding, Councilwoman, is that any employee that was not working with the city by November 1st, 2016, they are not grandfathered in with the ordinance, there were some discussions that I was not privy to regarding the Gary City Clerk, as well as the Gary City Court, as well as the administration. Our Chief of Staff may have some additional comments on that.
She directed me to you.
Okay.
So
Well-
I just, with everyone on, I just need to know what we're going to do about it. The ordinance says, be a resident. If you're grandfathered in, you can't be promoted. I'm looking at promotions going on. I'm looking at people, when you look at the sheet, you got people all the way in Beverly, South Shore, all these different cities. We got a department head right now, Mr. Boria. How long has he been working for the city?
I believe Mr. Boria was added to the city this year.
Okay, he doesn't live in the city of Gary. I remember that. That's one of the names I do remember. So, are we going to go by the ordinance, or are we just gonna just bring in anybody we want and just go along with it?
I was not prepared to respond to your question.
Okay, so
tonight.
you will get back to me?
I most certainly will.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Councilman Lay.
yeah, I was involved extensively in this residency ordinance. As I recall, it was something that really looked into it under Attorney Reagan Hatcher, who's now a state representative. There are two things, as I understood, a person had, and I don't have the ordinance in front of me, but I'm trying to recall from memory, they had so many months in which to relocate in the city of Gary. That was one part of that ordinance, as I recall. But the other thing you have to be careful of is that you have to look and see if that is a skill that's available to us, that we have somebody internally to do it. In other words, I'm just making this up now. The medical examiner may not be here, but do we have an alternative to getting a person to perform that task? So it's going to take Mr. McCain and them to really take a look at not only the ordinance, who are we talking about, and if they're going to give them the time to come into the city. Probably if they've been here since January to 6 months or whatever it is, may have run, but I don't have it in front of me to give you the exact amount of time. Whether that is skill that we don't have available. For instance, Corporation Counsel does not have to live within the city. But Mr. McCain is here now, so I don't want to imply he does not live here. Various people are exempt. Our police department, our fire department, in fact, our teachers to a certain extent, although they're not here. So they're really going to have to look at these 27 people. In my opinion, they're going to have to look at it and explain why these persons or personnel may be here. And they tried to get this skill within the community, were unable to locate it. They should prove that very carefully that they've looked for it. So that's part of that ordinance, as I recall, but I'm doing it from memory, and it's about 8 years ago I looked at it.
Your memory is accurate.
Well, but see, you the president, you might not know, so I can just at random speak.
Well, from what I recall, it is a 6 months
Yes.
timetable. And then also, I think to the point you're getting at in terms of skill availability, is that the mayor there's like 5 or 6 categories of activities in terms of promoting the opportunity, letting residents know, working with, I believe, even education organizations to find someone to do a particular role. And if after having done all those things, that they prove unsuccessful, the mayor can come before the council and ask for a waiver for those individuals. So I think that's pretty much what the ordinance says. I know we've been talking about this since at least February, And I think it is important, to Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell's point, that we have an ordinance. Let's do
Okay.
what it asks us to do. I know that, it's not always convenient or comfortable because these are people, we know them, we work with them, who we rely on. And so it's not personal. I think that's the point that we want to make it clear. It's simply the ordinance. And if we hold some to it, we have to hold all to it for whom it is applicable. So thank you.
I agree to that. That's what I was saying.
Absolutely.
Mr. President?
Attorney Colvin?
Yeah, I just like to add one other thing. Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell mentioned promotions. And I recall, and I don't know, Councilman Lay, if you recall this or not, but I believe there has been some legal challenge to that area with regard to promotions and public safety anyway. And I recall that Councilwoman Hatcher ran into that issue when she raised whether or not we were required or could prohibit promotions to individuals who did not live in the city. I recall something like that. I'm talking off the top of my head, but I just remember that also being an issue as it relates to this as well.
Now, Mr. President, I certainly agree. What the issue was promotion. That simply is prohibited by state statute. Only other thing that was discussed is if you did not reside in the city of Gary, you could not have a police vehicle when outside. Now that was determined by the mayor, I believe. I'm not sure. I think it was discussed under Mayor Clay. Right in there, I was somewhere in there. I was either code enforcement. I dealt directly with him. You're right. In terms of that's what Attorney Hatcher wants to do, restrict promotion. You can't do that. You can't punish them in any way, but we certainly didn't have to allow them to remove the car in the community. That was our own local rule. Oh, you're pretty accurate, but again, fail when you start talking about the police environment or even corporation council. It fails because state law, supremacy doctrine exists, and it says they can do those things.
Right. Thank you, Council members Barnes, Caldwell, and Lay. Any other members for special and select? All right. Seeing none, council pending ordinances and resolutions on third and final.
CPO 2020-69, in order to approving the amendment of garbage collection fees for users located in the city of Gary, sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary.
Councilwoman Atkins.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to return CPO 2020-69 to the Ways and Means Committee.
Second.
Right, it's been moved and seconded. What date?
It is the 8th, December the 8th at 5:30 via Zoom.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly seconded by Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell. Any questions or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins.
Yes.
Councilman Brewer.
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown.
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell.
Yes.
Councilman Lay.
You're muted.
I'm sorry. Yes.
I think Councilman Lay is muted.
Yes.
Somehow that got done. I didn't do it. At least I don't think I did. Yes, I vote yes.
Councilman Williams.
Yes.
And President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 7-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With a vote of 7-0, the matter, the CPO 2020-69 is returned to the Ways and Means Committee with a meeting to be held on Tuesday, December 8th at 5:30 p.m. via Zoom.
Mr.
Mr. President,
Councilman Lay.
here's one of these ordinances where the mayor is the sole person on the ordinance. I would suspect that even though his name is there, he didn't draft this particular ordinance. I would hope not. He ought to practice in law. Here again, I think the person who has the information name should go down there. If it's the city controller, that name should go there. And that way we may not get in an argument with the mayor about whether or not we can order him to appear, or that we don't take action on something, his failure to appear. So someone other than the mayor should go there. And as part of what I suggested on those other two, it could always be, unless he in fact is the only one that knows and he's developing these things. But I would suspect this needs to be amended, another name go there. Although it'd be nice if he came before the council too. I'm not suggesting, I don't think the council can order him. That's of a conflict.
Thank you, Councilman Lay, and I agree in part, but I certainly agree that it should be corrected, and I will rely on Attorney Colvin to make that correction. I will just say, I did say at the last committee meeting that I will abstain if the mayor is not public in his support for, or whatever it is that we end up, what's before us, right? So, and it's not meant to create conflict. It's simply, for me, this is a matter of, we're fundamentally changing the economics at the kitchen table, right? We are deciding that our city's residents will pay a substantially higher amount for a fundamental government service, right? So we're not talking about moving money from one account to another. This is not an insignificant ask of the council. And so from my standpoint, it's not merely about cover, it's about collaboration. So we're all in this together, whatever it is we ultimately vote on, and it's important that all stakeholders who are relevant to this are present. And we certainly know that sanitary district officials and their attorneys are in their board chair are sine qua non to these efforts, but we need to hear from the executive branch as well. That was my personal perspective. Councilman Lay?
I'm going to join in your personal perspective. What they're talking about, we need everybody here, the fire chief, the police chief, and certainly the mayor. So I agree with you. Here's one of the few times that I honestly believe we should hear from the chief executive of this city. So I wasn't implying that he shouldn't come. On this one, I'd like to see him come. I really would. Even though he may not have the details, one of the things we're suggesting doing, although I personally thought that Attorney McCain was sufficient because he was speaking in behalf of the mayor when he came, but certainly the mayor should come, and if nothing else, the public can see his position. So I agree with you. I really, on this particular ordinance, others I'm not sure. I would always want him to show up.
Right.
This one I would like to see it.
Thank you, Councilman Lay. All right, so I think where we are, we have concluded third and final. This point, council pending ordinances and resolutions on second reading.
CPO 2020-71, an ordinance providing for the transfer appropriations for the General Fund 101 Motor Vehicle Highway Fund, Local Roads and Streets Fund, and Lit Public Safety Fund for the fiscal year 2020 expenses, and forwarded to the Common Council for action and passage pursuant to Indiana Code 6-1.1-18-6, sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary. Arlene Colvin, City Controller.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
All right. So we're on second reading.
President, unless somebody objects.
Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell? Or you're going to say, I'm sorry, Councilman Lay?
I was going to say, let's do all of the finance at once unless there's an objection.
I agree. That's efficient. Madam Clerk, please proceed.
CPO 2020-72, an ordinance appropriating funds for the special revenue budget for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2021, ending December 31st, 2021. Sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary. CPO 2020-76, an ordinance approving a transfer of funds between Fund 271 J Pit Operational Solid Waste and Funds 233 Landfill Closure Plan and 845 Air Quality Permit. Sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary, Arlene Colvin, City Controller. CPR 2020-18, a resolution of the City of Gary approving transfers of dormant fund balances to the general fund, sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary, Arlene Coleman, City Controller.
Thank you. I believe that covers all of our finance. Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell.
Mr. President, I just slipped my mind. We have CPO 2020-71, 2020-72, 2020-76, and CPR 2020-18 on second reading. A committee meeting December the 8th at 6 o'clock, and a public meeting December the 15th at 6 p.m., all via Zoom.
Thank you, Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded by Council Members Lay and Mary Brown that the Finance Committee will have a meeting on Tuesday, December 8th at 6 o'clock p.m. and a public hearing on Tuesday, December 15th at 6 o'clock p.m., both via Zoom. Any questions or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 7-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With a vote of 7-0, CPO 2020-71, 2020-72, 2020-76, and CPR 2020-18 pass on second reading, with a committee hearing to be held on Tuesday, December 8th at 5:30. Tuesday, December 8th at 6 o'clock p.m. and a public hearing on Tuesday, December 15th at 6 o'clock p.m., both via Zoom. Councilman Brewer.
Mr. President, I think that'd be.
I'm sorry. Please proceed, Madam Clerk.
CPO 2020-73, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petition Eugene Eddy, 1501 to 1507, and 1509 Pierce Street, Gary, Indiana. Property of 1501 through 07, and 1509 Pierce Street, Gary, Indiana. CPO 2020-74, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petitioner is Cherry Brown, 2004 Wickham Street, Gary, Indiana. Property located at 2004 Wickham Street, Gary, Indiana. CPO 2020-75, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petitioner is Mihar Singh, 5400 West Ridge Road, Gary, Indiana. Property at 5400 West Ridge Road, Gary, Indiana.
Mr. President,
Councilman Brewer.
the Planning Development Committee has before us CPO 2020-73, 74, and 75. It's moving on second reading with a meeting date December the 8th, 2020 at 5 p.m. and a public hearing December the 15th at 6 p.m., both on my via Zoom.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 7-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With a vote of 7-0, CPO 2020-73, 2020-74, and 2020-75 pass on second reading with a committee hearing to be held on Tuesday, December the 8th at 5:00 p.m. via Zoom, and a public hearing on Tuesday, December 15th at 6:00 p.m. also via Zoom.
CPO 2020-77, an ordinance of the City of Gary, Indiana, amending the city fee schedule ordinance number 8968 by increasing and establishing fees for the City of Gary departments. Sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary.
Councilwoman Atkins.
Mr. President, the Ways and Means Committee has before it on second reading CPO 2020-77. Like to move to pass on second reading, with the committee meeting on Tuesday, December the 8th at 5:30, and a public hearing on Tuesday, December the 15th at 6 p.m. via Zoom.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded by Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell. Any questions or discussion? I just, if I might, Councilwoman Atkins, I did speak with the Executive Director of the Sanitary District earlier, and it looks like it's pretty clear to me that our 6:00 p.m. meeting will probably not, for finance, will probably not start at 6:00, maybe not 7 or 8 o'clock either. So.
Well, would we like to flip those times?
I think we should.
Okay.
And I probably should have stated that earlier, but I'm just looking at this now that all of them have been scheduled, given that we have two things, the fee ordinance and also the trash rate. So we perhaps need let's just see if we can revise your motion and then we can go back and fix the finance motion.
Okay, so should I just restate the motion?
Please do.
Okay, Mr. President.
I guess you should withdraw the motion on the table and then restate. Is that correct, Councilman Brewer?
She could just restate the motion. We can take another vote on it.
Okay.
She has the other one also.
She has what?
The first one with the.
Right, so let's do a new motion where you will, I guess, include both of these to be at a new time. Both the trash rate as well as the new CPO 2020-77.
Okay, so do I have to do anything to CPO 2020-69 or no?
Let's just combine in your new motion that the meeting on those will be at 6:00 p.m.
Okay, so Mr. President, the Ways and Means, okay. The Ways and Means Committee has before it on second reading CPO 2020-77. I would like to move for passage on second reading CPO 2020-77, scheduling a committee meeting on Tuesday, December the 8th at 5:30, and a public, I'm sorry.
6 o'clock. Mm-hmm.
Okay. A committee meeting on Tuesday. I wrote it down, y'all, so that's why I'm messing up.
That's all right.
On Tuesday, December the 8th at 6 p.m. and the public hearing on Tuesday, December the 15th at 6 p.m. via Zoom. I would also like to
include in that motion.
Include in the same motion that we return CPO 2020-69 back to the Ways and Means Committee at the same time. So for a committee meeting that would take place via Zoom Tuesday, December the 8th at 6 p.m.
It's been moved and properly seconded by Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell. Any questions or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 7-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With a vote of 7-0, both CPO 2020-69 and CPO 2020-77 will be considered at the Ways and Means Committee meeting on Tuesday, December 8th at 6 o'clock p.m. with a public hearing on Tuesday, December 15th at 6 o'clock p.m.
Fuck.
All right. I think that's all we have.
Mr. President,
Councilman Lay.
I know previously was discussed, we can do these, where the mayor has vetoed, we do it at the very end. It's quite important that in spite of what I guess the legal opinion was, I think we have to be very careful in terms of this veto. I believe the clerk should absolutely read that in the record because the statute has started to run on 2020-50, I believe in 2020-51. I don't have them in front of me, but that's there now. I do understand it's a debate over whether we have 30 days and all of that. I would assume we only have two more meetings. I mean, one more meeting. I don't like the idea of bypassing it. Again, and I understand people have been reading these ordinances. I'm sorry, reading these statutes, but it would seem to me we would, as I had previously said, we need to, one way or the other, get this out of the way. I'd hate to sleep it. I'm not as concerned with this one, this future one. Somehow we try to bypass it, or the clerk failed to read it because we're at a very strange time in the meeting. It's sort of, that's something we have to act on. That's why I always feel it should be up front in the meeting rather than at the end of the meeting because of its importance.
Well, thank you, Councilman Lay, and certainly you have the right to make a motion. I know I don't want to take it up this evening, but I'm just one person. I would prefer, there's some more information I'd like to gather. I did receive the letter, and we can certainly have the clerk to read the letter for both ordinances. There's a little bit more fact-finding I'd like to do. However, I do recognize that there is a legal question about the 30 days versus the 10 days. I'm operating on what the executive has provided us in the statutes that she provided to us. When I say executive, the chief of staff. And so unless that is different than what we've received, then I would prefer to take this up at December 15th, or if necessary, at a special meeting, but in any event, prior to the 30-day expiration. I'd like to hear from Attorney Colvin and Attorney Williams. And if I said anything incorrect, or if there's a different understanding of it.
Well, this is Attorney Williams. Your understanding is clear. I, however, seem to agree with Attorney Lay. There's clearly conflicting statutes here. You have a statute that I had never heard of prior to this happening of this late veto in the budget. And then you have the standard statute that informs the council on how they must react to a mayor's veto. My opinion, and the prudent thing to do, I believe, be to act under the statute that we are aware of, and that is the normality of what occurs after a mayor vetoes. However, I think the council president is on sound legal standing that he is relying on the document that's been provided by the council. By the chief of staff, and the chief of staff represents that she has received that information, and I have confirmed from a state agency. So there's no reason, I guess, to doubt that, but it is a scary precedent because there are two conflicting statutes. So however you proceed, I think you'd be on sound legal grounds.
Well, thank you, Attorney Williams. I think that by acknowledging publicly that we know there is a veto of both CPO 2020-50 and 2020-51, and by acknowledging in previous meetings and in this meeting that at least there's one school of thought that's supported by statutory language that says that we have 30 days. I think if there is a problem down the road and someone seeks to do a legal challenge against inaction today and action at the next meeting, that we would certainly be, it might be a case of first impression. But I think the fact that we've acknowledged it and that we've discussed it, I believe, and I'm just one person, the court of competent jurisdiction would yield to the interpretation that gives the council a longer amount of time, given the statutory language that supports that in light of when we took certain actions related to the budget. So my preference is to wait until December 15th. However, if there is a motion to override the respective vetoes, and certainly we would entertain such motion.
Mr. President,
Councilman Lay.
I don't have a motion, but I at least, and again, I'm going to go along with Attorney Williams' explanation. You cannot rely on the corporation. I'm sorry, on the chief of staff. And if she makes a mistake, we're still subject to that mistake. It was one of the reasons you're authorized to hire an attorney. And I don't think she would give us misinformation, but if it's wrong, you wouldn't be able to use that. Say, oh, she told us that. Again, I would want it read, certainly, at least in the record, that these two things, I'm not sure what day the mayor vetoed, to be honest with you. I didn't pay attention to it. I just know it was sent to me saying that it had been a line item veto. So I would assume the 30 days, assuming the 30 days is accurate, I don't know, to be honest with you. But I'm not going to contradict Attorney Williams. It started whatever day vetoed it. So I'm not sure what day the veto, so I would assume it was, I'm thinking it was sometime prior to Thanksgiving.
It was Friday, I'm sorry, it was the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. So I believe it was Tuesday, November 25th.
Right, so we would have to do it within that 30-day period.
Right,
so,
before Christmas.
Yeah, we couldn't call it after that day. That's I would, if she read it in the record, that would satisfy me. It's there. I don't think we can ignore it. I can ignore the voting at this time based on what Attorney Williams has said. At least the clerk should read it in the record.
I agree.
So,
Madam Clerk, and I'm sorry, Councilman Brewer.
So what Attorney Lay is saying, if we can run a default on that what was stated is not true, I think we still need to have some type of protection in place where we'll put that 10-day window in place for that emergency meeting to go ahead and have it if we should have need it. So therefore,
that would be
that would be the 8th.
By the veto, I believe, was November 25th, right? But I don't think you can. I guess I'm not opposed to it. I think the problem is that the statute is not merely the number of days. I think, and I'm saying to be corrected, it's at the most immediate council meeting following receipt of the notice.
Okay.
Right. So and I guess depending on different councils throughout the state might meet, the last day of the month or what have you. So I don't know how that varies, but I hear what you're saying. I just don't know if that necessarily solves our problem. But Attorney Williams?
You're absolutely correct. It does not solve our problem. If you don't take action today, it's the most immediate meeting, and we have a meeting and we were put on notice. So we would run afoul of that statute. So it's today or never as it relates to that statute. We would then be relying on the information provided by Attorney Colvin. And again, I have reviewed it and read it for myself, and it states as she has represented, but it's clearly two conflicting statutes. So again, that you're absolutely right. This would be the meeting. There would be no other meeting other than relying on the statute that the 30-day provision.
And what I would say, Attorney Williams, is that, let's just say hypothetically that on December 15th, there's 2/3 of the council that votes to override CPO 2020, 50, and 51. Who would challenge it, right? So if the executive branch obviously doesn't want our amended version to become law, I think it will be interesting before a judge for them to say that the information they provided to the council was inaccurate, and so therefore the judge should rule in their favor. I don't know what a judge would do. You can't ever predict, but I think it will be an interesting argument for the executive branch to make. obviously they would be the ones who would be most likely to bring litigation if we were to, do something that they obviously don't want us to do because it's been vetoed. But be that as it may, I do think we should have it read into the record as Councilman Lay suggests. Madam Clerk, can you do that for us?
Yes.
And
To the
please,
Gary-
if you can, please include it in the minutes, the actual letters themselves in the minutes that we vote on at the next meeting. Thank
To
you.
the Gary Common Council from Gary City Clerk Suzette Rags, November 25th, 2020. Mayor's veto of ordinance 9367, CPO 2020-50. Please be advised that ordinance number 9367, CPO 2020-50, entitled an ordinance appropriating monies for the purpose to frame the expenses of general parks, Coit, seated CCI, CCD, MVH, LRS, pension, fire pension, and police pension tax-based funds of the city of Gary, Indiana for the fiscal year beginning January the 1st, 2021 and ending December 31st, 2021, including all outstanding claims and obligations and fixing a time when the time shall take effect. Sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary, Arlene Colvin, City Controller, was passed by the Gary Common Council on November the 2nd, 2020. The ordinance was submitted to the mayor for signature on November 20th, 2020, and returned to the clerk's office on November 25th with the attached veto letter.
Mr. President, shouldn't she read the veto letter into the record?
I think that's appropriate. Do you have that letter, Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
November 25th, 2020, members of the council. In order to ensure the city government is operated as efficiently as possible, I take the following actions in connection with CPO 2020-50. Regarding the operating budgets of all general fund departments as outlined in CPO 2020-50, I hereby veto those budgets as approved by the Gary Common Council on November the 2nd, 2020. I also veto the operating budgets approved the Gary Common Council on November the 2nd for the following funds: Motor Vehicle Highway Fund, County Economic Development Income Tax Seated Fund. I hereby approve the operating budgets as contained in CPO 2020, approved by the Gary Common Council on November the 2nd for the following funds: Fire Pension Fund, Police Pension Fund, Local Roads and Streets Fund, Park Fund, CCI Fund, CCD Fund, Lit Public Safety Fund, respectively submitted Jerome A. Prince, Mayor, City of Gary, Indiana. To the Gary Common Council from Gary City Clerk Suzette Rags, November 25th, 2020, subject Mayor's veto of ordinance 9368, CPO 2020-51. Please be advised that ordinance number 9368, CPO 2020-51, entitled an ordinance approving salaries for the employees of the City of Gary's General Parks, Coit, MVH, pension, and fire tax-based fund for the calendar year 2021, sponsored by Mayor
Getting ready to
Jerome
go
Prince,
home.
City of Gary.
Councilwoman Brown, you're unmuted.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Please proceed, Madam Clerk.
Arlene Colvin, City Controller, was passed by the Gary Common Council on November the 2nd, 2020. The ordinance was submitted to the mayor for signature on November the 20th, 2020, and returned to the clerk's office on November 25th with the attached veto letter. Would you like for me to read the letter?
Yes, thank you.
November 25th, 2020, members of the council, as mayor of the city, it is my responsibility to manage the city's resources efficiently and in the most financial prudent way. There is no doubt that our public safety employees deserve a raise for their hard work, especially during the trying times in which we now find ourselves regarding the pandemic. But it would be fiscally unwise to provide raises at this time. Specifically speaking, do so would require funding beyond our current resources. Accordingly, I take following action in connection with CPO 2020-51. regarding the salary budgets contained in all general fund departments as outlined in CPO 2020-51, I hereby veto those budgets as approved by the Gary Common Council on November the 2nd, 2020. It is my intent that the raises provided to sworn police safety personnel be vetoed. This veto extends to all raises approved by the Gary Common Council on November 2nd in the following funds as well, providing that raises have been granted. Motor Vehicle Highway Fund, County Economic Development Income Tax CEDA Fund, Local Roads and Streets Fund, Parks Fund, CCI Fund, CCD Fund, Lids Public Safety Fund. By this veto, all salaries would be returned to 2020 level. Respectively submitted, Jerome A. Prince, Mayor, City of Gary.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay. So one thing that I failed to do, and that is to change the date for the Finance Committee meeting, because we were supposed to switch those. And so the Councilman Barnes Caldwell, I believe we're going to have the Finance meeting at 5:30 instead of 6. So would you like to restate your motion?
Mr. President, the Finance Committee would like to have our Finance Committee meeting December the 8th at 5:30, and the public hearing December the 5th at 6 p.m. instead of the previous time.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded by Councilman Lay. Any questions or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
You're muted, Councilwoman Brown. Let's please proceed.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown, President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 6-0.
With 6 votes to 0, the Finance Committee, the CPO, 2020-71 and 72, as well as 76, and CPR 2020-18 passed on second reading with a committee hearing to be held on Tuesday, December 8th at 5:30 p.m. with a public hearing on Tuesday, December 15th at 6:00 p.m.
Mr. President, it's pending ordinances and resolutions on second reading.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. At this time, we will have our mayor's report and questions for city officials.
Mr. President,
Hi, Councilman Brewer.
can we do some clarity on that, that position that was open, in boards and commission, of that position? I got some inboxes on it. Want more
The
clarity.
Genesis Center, we have one position open. We're taking letters of interest and resumes until the 15th. I believe I said the 15th. No, I'm sorry, until the 11th.
No, Councilwoman, you said the 15th initially.
Oh, okay, I would like to change that. I would like to change that to the 11th, to December the 11th. We at, I guess, 5 p.m.
Okay, is that a motion? What are we doing? This is the deadline for the,
Yeah, this is
okay.
for, yeah,
A
for the
motion's not
Genesis, and he was
necessary.
asking what it was.
Yeah, you're correct. I'm sorry. I misunderstood. All right. Any other questions about that matter?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Councilman Williams?
that clarification, is that for the public hearing?
No, that would be the committee hearing for boards and commissions to interview the applicants.
Okay.
All right. Okay, Attorney Colvin?
Good evening, council members. First of all, I'd like to announce that there will be a dedication of the baby box that the fire department has acquired at Fire Station number 5, which is 4959 Pennsylvania Street, tomorrow. So this will provide a safe place for parents to safely turn newborns over to the fire department with no charges or legal ramifications. I'd also like to make everyone aware that Governor Holcomb has extended the public health emergency another 30 days, given that Lake County is a red county, which is the most restrictive level for COVID-19. With regard to that, the mayor has ordered more restrictions on businesses, social gatherings, and houses of worship. The mandatory mask and face covering mandate remains in place. Also, the Gary Health Commissioner, Dr. Roland Walker, has indicated that bars, nightclubs, social clubs all have new restrictions, including limiting patrons to 50% of capacity, and they must also close by midnight. The order includes citations and fines. Tragically, we've lost 103 residents of the city to this pandemic, while we have 3,338 residents that have been diagnosed with the disease since March. So please wear your face mask, please maintain social distancing, and please make sure that you check on families and your family and friends in this pandemic. We've adjusted hours in our city facilities. City offices will be open through the end of the year, Tuesdays through Thursdays, with reduced numbers of staff in place due to the pandemic in order to maintain a safe workplace. And wherever possible, employees will work from home. Essential workers, of course, and public safety employees will work as they normally do. Our General Services Department and Public Works Departments have compiled a comprehensive snow and ice removal plan. The details of this plan will be available on gary.gov and released to the media this week. And it will show where there are snow routes, parking restrictions, and more. And finally, the Gary Airport, of course, you are aware of the UPS development at the airport. We also have obtained the ability to have a customs inspection officer within 24 hours, as opposed to the 48 to 72 hours that we had in the past. So this will give us a shorter access to improve our customer service and generate additional income on international shipments. So that ends my report.
All right. Thank you, Attorney Colvin. And certainly on your last point, that's very exciting with UPS. I'm out there quite a bit and see just how extensive their operations are becoming. I think the other day I saw them flying in. So that's a very exciting move for the city. I know we've been working on that for some time, but I hope to see more of that.
Yes.
Questions for Attorney Colvin or other city officials who are on?
Mr. President.
Councilwoman Atkins, and then Councilman Brewer.
Oh, okay. I had 4 things that I wanted to bring up or question. The first thing is, during our November the 17th public meeting, we asked about information related to the state of the city that was tentatively, I'm going to use that word, scheduled for December the 4th. At that meeting, it was stated that we would have a time by the end of that week, but that didn't happen. So I just wanted to get an update as to if we are still planning to have that or not.
Councilwoman, as far as I know, we are planning to have that. I still don't have a time, but that is something I'll get back to you tomorrow on.
Okay. I also going to ask your help on this too, Attorney Colvin. I know we throw a lot at you.
Okay.
But I actually have been working with the leaders in the park department over the summer to create a park plan for the fort. I was able to get funding for Carolina Park in support of all $50,000, as well as I personally solicited a grant and got $15,000 in support to do something at Ironwood Park. The issue that I'm having is that I have sent requests to the park leadership on September the 18th. I followed up on September 25th. I followed up on October the 1st, October the 6th, as well, asking for three things. During a meeting that I had in August, there was information given to me that there is standard operating procedures that the city has to prepare for any type of site development at the park. I requested that information in writing and have still not received it. I also wanted to get information related to those individuals or organizations who had adopted parks within the 4th district. Again, it was a part of the follow-ups in October, but I haven't received that information either. So if you can help me get that, that would be great. One of the main caveats related to the grant is that we do have to have a project plan, and we also have to do a community build. So before I engage the community or work with anybody who is deemed the leader on the park department side, other than Eric Reeves, on a project plan, I want to make sure that I understand what it looks like, and how do we engage the city, what departments need to be involved, et cetera, which was given to me verbally, but not in detail in August. So that would be helpful. Also, there has been a number of street light outages in the city, specifically both city poles as well as NIPSCO structures. I have, over the last week, submitted requests to NIPSCO in multiple areas within the 4th. But as I just stated, some of these pole outages are city poles as well. I could identify between 21st Avenue and 24th on Grant Street. I know those are city poles that have been out. I'm not sure. The last time I checked was about 2 days ago, so I'm not sure if they have been reinstated or not. But that's a growing concern, especially with daylight savings time. When we hit 5:30, 6 o'clock, it's pitch black. And so a lot of the seniors have been reaching out because that is the issue. So if we can get an update from Public Works in terms of what we're doing within the city to rectify that issue. And then also if there is a way that we can connect to NIPSCO to kind of get an update, because there's so much coverage that needs attention within the city of Gary, that would be great as well.
Okay.
My last issue that I wanted to bring aware to the public and also possibly get some engagement from the administration is this weekend I was sent an article in the paper about the Lake Sandy Joe Superfund site, which is off of West 25th Avenue. I wanted to bring that attention to exactly what that is and what's going on with it to the public in case they want to take action. The EPA has called for public comments that will be available for us to make, to ask questions, to engage in any concerns related to that particular site, removing off of what is called the NPL list, which is the National Priorities List of Superfund sites through the EPA sometime in 2021. The deadline for public comment is December the 20th. I don't know if any other council members have received any information related to that. I did notice that East Chicago, Indiana actually went through the same process earlier this year, but they're also, when I looked at the site, their council members were notified and we haven't been notified of anything. But I did see that Eric Reeves, Executive Director for Community Investment, did make a comment. So I know that he's aware, but if there's any additional information that the council specifically should be aware, I think it's good. So I just wanted to give, the public some brief information. So this location is located between 25th Avenue, like the 25th 100 block of Hendricks and Whitcomb. The exact address is 3615 West 25th Avenue. It is being recommended by the EPA to be removed, again, from the National Priority List of Superfund sites. It inquires about 40 acres of the actual parcel, but what they call remediation plan goes out to a 1 mile radius. So the Superfund program is nested under the EPA, and it focuses on making viable, lasting differences in communities by ensuring that people can live, work in healthy, vibrant places. So that particular location used to hold what was called, I think it's the MLM landfill. And there was a lot of chemicals, construction materials that was buried underneath. And the remediation plan calls for like a soil coverage to try to, I guess, contain the contaminants related to that site. The key thing is that the contaminants, the chemicals that was at that site, the EPA states that that the health risks from people, the health risk that was associated with the chemicals at that site caused issues with ingesting, touching contaminants, issues with the groundwater, soil, surface water, and sediment. So I have actually reached out not only to the EPA, but also to the Indiana Department of Environmental Management to inquire. I think there's a lot more that the public and possibly, I don't know if, I think we have a Department of Green Urbanism that might be in tune too. So we should just understand, for one, if in fact we do support this, we want to make sure that we understand what chemicals are there. If there is a disruption to the soil, will it cause, or to the barrels under there, would it cause any contaminants to disrupt, any environmental concerns? There is, the EPA has a plan that they do a check every 5 years. So the last 5-year check was done in 2016. So I did read that report. I want to encourage people to reach out to our community investment coordinator from the EPA. Her name is Janet Pope. I reached out to Ms. Janet today, and this is again to get you any information related to removing that site off of the list and what that calls for. I also wanted to bring the attention to the council. One of the things that the quote in the paper that Mr. Reeves stated was that it could be used for redevelopment, and he's thinking industrial. Well, we already have an ordinance, which is part of their containment strategy that states what that particular site could be used for. And it was a recommendation in the report for the council to look at amending the ordinance, specifically because they said that consideration should be given to updating this ordinance that we have related to groundwater, so that it can prohibit wells for non-potable uses. So I just think that there's more information that we need to have. We need to prepare and probe more to see if it's relatively healthy for the residents that are near that area. And also if there's any pre-steps that we need to make as the council to amend any existing ordinances that will support what they call, what do they call it? I'm saying internal controls, but I think it's called industrial controls. So I wanted to bring the attention to that. I encourage you all to read the reports, to go on the EPA site. Again, it is the Lake Sandy Joe Superfund site located on West 25th Avenue between Hendricks and Whitcomb. And then again, I have a lot of information I've gotten, and I reached out to my contact at the EPA as well to get some questions for us to inquire about, and I would be happy to share that. So if there's anyone on the administration, Ms. Attorney Colvin, that I should probably connect with, I just want to make sure that we're well versed on that information, and then I can share the questions that I probed to. I sent these questions to the EPA contact as well as the Indiana Department of Environmental Management contact as well.
You should contact or should be in contact with Brenda Scott Henry for sure in the Green Urbanism Department. I see that Attorney Pohl has unmuted himself, so he may have something to say as well.
Hey, Paul.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? And absolutely, the Lake Sandy Joe site, that was a property that was controlled by redevelopment, and the potential plans for that site were presented before the Redevelopment Commission in a series of public hearings last year. So it was before a number of the council members that are now currently sitting on the council were on the council, but I would be more than happy to share any of that information. It's all public information as to what the potential uses for that site have been proposed as. And at this point now, I know that there have been some studies that have been done at the site. I wish I would have, if I had known about discussing this tonight, I would have definitely even seen if I could potentially even bring in some of the individuals that are involved with that project as well. who are very, very open about what the potential uses for that site and what they envision for that place, for the Lake Sandy Joe site to be. So.
Okay, yeah, that would be great. I don't know if I could even request from President Godwin, maybe if we can have it on the agenda for the next public meeting to kind of discuss in detail. In the meantime, I could connect with Brenda Scott Henry, who was just referred from Attorney Colvin's perspective. So we just need to make sure that we are aware. And I know one thing, I don't know, Attorney Pohl, if you all received, but on the site, as it talked about Superfund redevelopment strategies, it's that one thing that we should have is a fact sheet that describes when and how the site should be ready for reuse. And it has a timeline related to that. On the site, you can actually type in respective Superfund sites to see if there's one, and the one for Lake Sandy Joe was not on the EPA website of right now. So I think that would be a good step one, to have that fact sheet and to provide that to council members in case they want to be aware of that as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you,
All
Mr.
right.
President.
Thank you, Councilwoman Atkins and Attorney Pohl. And certainly we can allot time during special and selected our next meeting for further discussion. All right, any other questions of city officials?
President.
Councilman Brewer?
Thank you. Councilwoman Atkins definitely hit one of my points there. Was definitely about the lights throughout the city. A number of them on the east side and on the west side that definitely need some attention right away. One particular is 21st, and I think that's Virginia there. Needs definitely some attention right away. Also, I would like to, before the snow plan can be released to everyone else, make sure that the council can get a copy of that snow plan. I looked for it in my email and I didn't see a copy of it. And they had assured me that the council would get a copy of the snow plan. And also want to get an update on the plan for signage on 25th and Birch Street. There's a sign, I don't believe it was put up by the city, but there's a sign that points people to come down that street, which points trucks to come down the street, and there's a turnaround on 25th and Clark Road. It's a sign there, but I don't believe that the administration did that. But I would like some type of clarity on signage, the appropriate signage being put on 25th Avenue from Birch Street going all the way down. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Brewer. Any other members have questions of city officials?
Mr. President,
Councilman Lay?
I had two, if Attorney Colvin would explain it. You said on the fire station, turn over newborn children. What do you mean, turn them over?
Turn over newborn children. Many fire stations in many communities have what they call baby boxes, where an individual can actually bring a child and they newborns that are left in the baby box, and then the fire department then contacts officials and make sure that the child is okay and receives attention. So that's what we're referring to.
The child has been abandoned?
Yes.
Oh, okay, that's what I thought you were saying. Yes. My other question, the mask mandatory in the city of Gary?
Is what mandatory?
Mask, to wear a mask.
Yes.
Now, let me ask another question. There are people economically can't afford these masks. Will the city, and I think they should, if you make it mandatory for those that certainly cannot, as well as the homeless, somehow they should be made available. Again, that's my need to serve the many. I mean, in other words, there's no need of having a lot of people running around without a mask. Certainly can't find these people if they not have the resources to buy the mask. So can the executive branch come up with some plan where they get these masks?
We have had a number of giveaways, free mask giveaways, and we still do make masks available to individuals as they come into City Hall and other public buildings. So as we receive those supplies, we actually do make them available, and we're still going to continue to do that.
So in other words, when is the mask mandatory? What's the mandatory date?
You mean when did it go into effect?
It's already in effect. That's when does it go?
I'm
Okay,
sorry.
when does it go into effect if it's not in effect? Is it December the
It's
2nd?
in effect, and I would have to give you the exact date
Mhm.
because I don't have it before me.
Right, but I'm suggesting that that somehow you have, in fact, and I know it's a problem because of the pandemic, there should be probably maybe multi locations, the fire department, at a police department, or at City Hall. In other words, we're also going to have to move it into the community because of the inability of people to get to certain locations.
Okay.
It would be nice if you could put it within some location within all councilmatic districts, at least that much, where they could pick up. And I'm talking about free mass,
Okay.
they don't have to pay for it. That was it. That was it.
All right, thank you, Councilman Lay. Any other members have questions of city officials? Seeing and hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So move, Mr. President.
We stand adjourned. Everyone have a great evening. Thank you.